Hi, everybody. Can one of my moderators let me know if you can hear me okay? In the meantime, I'm going to say hey to everybody. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you for being here and for sending me such sweet messages. I really appreciate it. We have some fun stuff to talk about today, so I'm excited. Hi, Anna Marie Miller. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Chosen to be His. Thank you. Okay, she said I sound great. I'm going to put it up there so y'all can see she responded. Awesome. Okay, so over the weekend, I was scrolling and I was going to talk about this Monday, but we had other pressing matters. So I was like, okay, Wednesday is cool. But oh, hey, Donna Reese. Hi, Queen Verda Sanchez. Hi, Ruth C. Hi, Tamiko Hinman. Hi, Ann Fu. Hey, Mama. Hey, Mama. Thank y'all so much for being here. Okay. So I was the whole time over the weekend, I kept seeing articles of a certain someone, I won't say who, a certain someone who was saying that Meghan would not have gotten along with Princess Diana because Princess Diana would not have respected her. That headline seemed to be in a lot of different places. The normal tabloid situation, that's kind of one of the things that's one of their punches that they throw from time to time. But I saw it creeping over into some of my favorite articles or some of my favorite platforms. And I'm like, why are they even entertaining it? But it was like they were questioning it more so, like, is this true? And they were kind of just retelling what that man said and then kind of giving their perspective. But it was growing legs that Princess Diana wouldn't have respected Meghan. And again, oh, hi, thank you, Mama. And again, this is something we've heard before, that Diana wouldn't have liked Meghan, which makes absolutely no sense because people who don't like Meghan outside of the racial aspect don't like Diana for the very same things. So it's always insane because it's like, before Meghan, y'all had nothing but negative things to say about Diana. Y'all always painted her as irrational and crazy, and you act like she imagined the abuse she suffered at the hands of the press and the mistreatment she suffered at the hands of the royal family. And so they always gaslit Diana, even in death. They did so. And so they did a lot of the same things to Meghan, except with Meghan, there was just this other layer of racism as well. So one of the things that has always bugged me, and you guys have seen me say this on this channel so many times, how you gonna tell somebody about their own mama? You expect to know about someone more than their mom? Harry himself has talked about the similarities between Diana and Meghan. So it's always interesting to me when people who have never met Diana nor Meghan can talk about what would or would not have been likely between them. That's something, first of all, we'll never know. That's something we'll never know. But what we can go on is the people who know them both, one of which, who loved them both and loves them both to this day, is Diana's baby boy, her youngest son. So I put together a couple of little segments from this amazing article that I found that was basically put out a little while ago, but it definitely disputed everything that those other articles said, but not just by hearsay, but with fact, and it pulled receipts. So I wanted to kind of share that. So we will get started. I want to make sure that we've got everybody here. I don't want to leave anybody behind, but it looks like we've got a pretty full room. Before I get started with segment one, I do want to say thank you so much to everybody who sent in your emails and your DMs and your responses on comments about what time would work best for you. An overwhelming majority was like 6:30 p.m. Eastern is your time. That's the time that you've had for the longest. That's the time that we would prefer you to stay. And most people were like, if you are at 6:30 and another person streams at this time, we will prioritize you. When I heard that, I was like, okay, well, there's no reason for me to move. So I wanted to say thank you so much to everyone who gave me your opinion, and I'll definitely keep my time here. Um, and I appreciate you letting me know that you would back me up on that so that I can keep my time here. Because I never wanted to split anybody between my stream and another stream. So I chose 6:30 so that y'all wouldn't be trying to dart back and forth. I actually tried to find a time that was significantly later or earlier than other people because no one was streaming at this time. And so I did so that you guys wouldn't have to try to bounce back and forth so quickly or try to double dip. Like that's just so uncomfortable for everybody, like to try to be everywhere at the same time. So I appreciate people for recognizing that I chose that this time for that reason, and that if other people stream at this time, that you will prioritize me so that I can keep it here. But I really appreciate that. I honestly was just like, let me know, I'll figure it out. But everybody was like, girl, don't move. So I was just like, okay, let me know, because I'm trying to make it convenient and fun. So I definitely don't want anybody stressed. So I also want you guys to be able to participate too, because that's hard to like trying to listen to something and then be like, oh, I can't respond because I'm doing a lot of other stuff. So thanks so much for responding to me quickly. My email was blowing up. I was like, okay, got a lot of opinions. I should have been careful who I asked, but no, I asked the right group because y'all will let me know. So thank you so much. So we're going to get into the stream. It seems like everybody here, so I really appreciate that. And I'm going to go ahead and get into the stream so we can get into the discussion. Let's see. Oh, here we go. From the time she married Prince Harry in May 2018, Meghan made it clear service was front of mind. Much like her late mother-in-law, Meghan's interests have always leaned towards humanitarian efforts and using her platform to shed light on issues that are so important to her. It's not just her philanthropic endeavors that strike us as very Diana-like, though. From her fashion to her compassion for her children, her hands-on parenting style, and so much more, a number of times Meghan made us think of Diana. Even the youngest son of the late royal sees the similarity. Quote, so much of what Meghan is and how she is so similar to my mom, Prince Harry says in the first episode of Harry and Meghan. She has the same compassion, she has the same empathy, she has the same confidence. She has this warmth about her. Take a look at the 10 times Meghan Markle reminded us of Princess Diana. Now, this article is in sheknows.com and it is linked in the sources section of the description box below. But they first began with royal protocols. Both of them reportedly found the restrictions from the British royal family's extensive protocols to be frustrating, leading both of them to repeatedly break it while in the Windsor house. Now, as we continue to recap Princess Diana, or Diana, her true story in her own words, every other Friday, that is something we are seeing is the restrictive nature of the royal family, even behind the scenes, as well as the formality. Case in point, in the last recap of Diana, her true story in her own words that we had here on this channel, we talked about how Princess Diana found it incredibly baffling that Prince Charles always had to check on his mother, father, and grandmother before he could check on her, even in private settings. And when they would be having tea time or they would be having cocktails or whatever, if he got up to get a drink for anyone, he always had to follow those 3 rules first. Check on your mother because she's the monarch, check on your father because he's the prince and he feared his dad, and check on his grandmother because she was the queen mother, and then check on Diana. She had to be repeatedly told that that's just the way it is. And she was like, color me crazy, but I thought you were supposed to check on your wife first. Now, Outside of the royal family, that will look crazy as hell. But I guess that's their protocols. Meghan and Spare, we found out that Meghan hugged William when she met him because she was meeting her new boyfriend's brother. She's meeting family. They are in private. It's literally just the three of them and William's dogs in William's apartment. Kate wasn't even there. She was somewhere with the kids. And when Meghan met him, she hugged William, and William might have expected her to bow. Prince Harry makes sure that we know that that wasn't what he vocalized, but it seemed as though he was shocked that she not only didn't bow to him, but that she actually touched him. Mind you, he's not meeting a fan. He's not meeting, a person with an organization. He's not meeting someone at a charity. He's meeting his new potential family member, and their relationship is evolving. You would think that he's meeting his potential sister-in-law at this stage enough at his own apartment. His brother thinks enough of her to bring her to his own brother's apartment. And when she hugged him, it caught him off guard. Same thing happened when she met Kate. She kind of, what is the word? Y'all know I can't stand it. She recoiled. They recoiled. And so those are just a few of the quote protocols that just don't make sense. And we haven't even gotten into the media side of things and how they can't respond to things in the media, and that's left up to their comms teams, and that goes through a whole different level of protocol, and it's not necessarily up to each individual person. It's up to royal protocol how and when they can respond. So they can't even access their own legal team. It's not encouraged for them to access their own legal team, which is what we saw with Harry when he wanted to sue. He had to go through the palace first, and then he kind of got the runaround. So the royal protocols seem to be restrictive and restrictive for no reason, and they seem to hurt more than they help. Thought that was interesting that they have that in common. What do you think? Oh, oops, let me remove it. Okay, there we go. So I thought that was interesting that, first of all, that list was really good. And the link to this entire list and this article that contains this list that we're going to discuss today is in the sources section of the description box below. But the reason I found that one to be just so impactful is because we also found out, oh, hey, Jocelyn Griffith said, I'm on time today. The reason I thought that was so impactful was because we later found out that a lot of those protocols are made up by the press themselves. A lot of them are made up by the press. A lot of them aren't actually real. They're more so like preferences or habits or just things that the royals have done repeatedly over time, like certain dress codes and protocols for dress code. Those aren't things that the royals have to abide by. As we saw with the off-shoulder thing that they said Meghan broke protocol based on her off-shoulder dress, only to find out that Queen Elizabeth herself had worn many off-shoulder dresses and that Kate had done so, Princess Diana. They just wanted to use that to control them and to always just make Meghan feel like she was out of sorts. They always wanted to undermine her in some way. And the best way to do that was to kind of gear the British public into thinking that rules were broken and respect wasn't paid to you guys in the royal family. So if they just said, we don't like Meghan, so we're going to talk crap, then a lot of people wouldn't have gotten on board initially because people were excited about Meghan. But the moment they made it about she doesn't respect our culture, she doesn't respect our royal family, she doesn't respect our people, then a lot of people turned the tide. And because they were already racist or misogynistic, it was just that easier to convince them. So those protocols are kind of just BS. And as we saw, Diana didn't care for them and neither did Meghan. And again, it's not all protocols. It's just the ones that are quite ridiculous. And I'm glad that the article itself pointed that out, that a lot of those protocols, they're not even real. But yes, Clara Cador, am I saying that? Cador? Clara Cador said, those rules are made up as you go. That is exactly right. A lot of those rules are made up as you go. And a lot of them are more so preferences. We have to keep in mind that they could just say, it would be nice if these ladies wore only dresses below the knee because it shows respect. But that wouldn't get as many clicks. But if they say the queen frowned when she saw Meghan wore a dress above the knee, now everybody's like, I'm offended on behalf of the queen. Like now they got a reason or a bone to gnaw on so that they can really get out the unfair commentary that they really want to get off. Yes, absolutely. Hey, Wendy Loman. I said hey again, but Wendy Loman said, Harry said they make up protocols as they go to fit their narrative. There you go. That is how they are selling their papers and their other forms of communication or whatever, their other products, their magazines or whatever, by saying, oh, Meghan made this mistakes. And then they get even more points by the derangers if they put Kate in there somewhere and say how their English Rose got it right. That's kind of shady to call that woman an English Rose. If you know, you know. Hey, Kathy Gabby said, vapors. You know what? It's insane how much they get away with just by saying, and it's all hearsay or made up right there in the press room. They just write it and go and make them up as they go. Hey, Mackenzie. So let me say, Mackenzie, I always love your profile picture. Mackenzie says, get ready for crystal balls to replace the body language experts in the spirit of everyone from Diana the Queen Victoria to denounce Meghan. There it is. Like, you know, y'all know those nothing grinds my gears more than those body language experts, because they be talking crazy. Because here's the thing. If you really are a body language expert, if that's really your trade, okay, great. Okay, great. But if you're going to apply it, apply it. So if you're going to talk about body language, we need to talk about all those videos and photos and clips of Will and Kate and that atrocious body language and the grimaces and the recoiling. Like, if we're going to do it, let's do it. Because all I ever see now, first, the body language experts called Harry and Meghan's PDA desperate and inappropriate, right? Because what Will and Kate were all about the work, right? Okay. Only to then say he hates her and Meghan is overbearing and controlling and mean. Now both of those can't really be true. They can't be madly in love to the point that it's inappropriate. Then one of them is abusing the other one and the other one hates the other one, but they manage to just look so in love in public. Yet you have another couple over here who are just practically outright punching each other. They've done everything except punch each other in the face at this point. They can't touch each other to save their life. Then when she tried to, I'm not going to say their names, but then when she tried to hold his hand, I think it was at the BAFTA Awards, right? And he was like doing the Matrix to avoid holding that woman's hand. He was just like, no thanks. Not only then, she popped him on the butt. I'm just like, okay, this is inappropriate. If my child is watching the BAFTA's red carpet, I don't want to see nobody poking on the butt. Like, that just could wait until you get inside with the other adults. Like, it just don't have to be there. But then they were talking about Kate gets a little grabby. It's just like, is anyone else not creeped out by this? Like, but it looked like a desperate attempt to save face, because he sure did. He saw her trying to hold that hand and he was like, no thanks, lady. But the thing is, he does that on purpose too. Because here's my thing. Far be it from me to defend those people, any of them, for any of them. But what I will say is this. He don't even have it in him to be a decent husband. Even if you're going to do it for show, do it. Commit to it. You know it's for show. We don't have to know it's for show. If there's a reason they're choosing to go with the facade, so then commit. I don't want to know that this veil is so thin and see right through it. At least do me the honor of acting like I'm not stupid. Like, you don't have to sit there and be like, well, this will trick them. I'm going to be completely mean, but they'll say we're in love. Nobody believes it. Not even the people who write that believes it. It's so clear those two people cannot stand each other. They go out of their way to prove it. Honestly, if they did nothing, we could come up with whatever we could come up with. It's the fact that he is actively repulsed by her and he is excited to show us every chance he gets. That is what's insane to me. That's what's crazy. But if she would just recognize that he is not going to engage with me in that way and leave it alone, he wouldn't have to keep doing that. So it seems like maybe behind the scenes, they're making a commitment to at least act the part, but they have certain guidelines. And one of them is always trying to do a little too much. And it seems like that might be her way. She always just got to go above and beyond. But anyway, let's get on to segment 2. Their life beyond the House of Windsor. We can only imagine what Princess Diana's post-royal life would look like today. But we have a feeling it wouldn't be dissimilar to that of Harry and Meghan's. In the final episode of Harry and Meghan, the Duke of Sussex commented that his mom might have ended up in Santa Barbara one day. But beyond where they settled, Meghan's continued philanthropic and humanitarian efforts reminds us most of Diana's post-royal life. Even the Duchess of Sussex remarked in Harry and Meghan that if the couple are going to have a microscope on them after taking a step back as members of the royal family, they're going to use their platforms for good, something we think Diana would be proud of. More to that fact, I wanted to include just a quick touch base on what Harry and Meghan have been doing as far as their philanthropic work and just their work overall. And I'm using the archwell.com website since I'm always telling people, if you don't know what Harry and Meghan are doing, go to archwell.com. If I can talk about it, I gotta be about it. So let's take a look. We're going to start from the most recent day and we're going to move backwards, but we're not going to go through everything because let me tell you, in just 2 years and some change, they have done so freaking much. So we have a lot that we could discuss here. I'm just going to go ahead and quickly run down some of the things they've done in the past few months. March 14th, Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, contributes a recipe to the World Central Kitchen cookbook, Feeding Humanity, Feeding Hope. March 8th, they celebrated International Women's Day, which we talked about in our live stream last week. And we talked about how they did the pop-up baby store, how Meghan took everyone out to lunch. They went to a woman's own restaurant. They had cupcakes, and we talked about all of that. March 1st, NAACP and the Archwell Foundation announced 2023 Digital Civil Rights Award winner. February 18th, the Archwell Foundation helps launch Responsible Technology Youth Power Fund. February 7th, submissions for the 2023 Well Child Awards are open. January 31st, SmartWorks empowering women in the UK and their activity regarding that. January 16th, 2023, they had an MLK Day of Service. January 10th, they congratulated Prince Harry for Spare. On December 19th, they did the Gifting Back event. December 15th, and we did talk about that at that time. December 15th, a new approach to conservation and their work regarding conservation. December 7th, the RFK Ripple of Hope Awards, where they were honored for their work in the civil rights area. December 7th, Archetypes wins People's Choice Award. That's not philanthropic, but we're going to throw it in. December 7th, we saw Prince Harry celebrate Pearl Harbor Day. November 29th, investing in gender equity. We did talk about it at that time. November 28th, elevating working women. November 25th, giving thanks. November 18th, Archwell Foundation and Harvard's Berkman Klein Center for Internet and Society are investing in our digital future. November 13th, Scotty's Little Soldiers. Now, hold on. We did talk about this at that time, but when I first saw this on their site, my brain clicked into Scott's Tots. If you watch The Office, you know what Scott's Tots is, and you know why. I was like, wait, what? So that was just funny. But this is Scotty's Little Soldier, and we did talk about it at that time. They celebrated Remembrance Day. They reminded people to vote and vote early, and we saw Meghan go vote in California. October 25th, relief for flooding in Nigeria. October 24th, celebrating the power of women. October 21st, supporting families forced to flee Afghanistan. October 18th, advocating for equitable and affordable access to childcare. October 18th, Woman, Life, Freedom, supporting women in Iran. October 18th, discussing feminism and the labels that try to hold women back. October 18th, supporting families in need. October 18th, the Archwell Foundation and Kaboom Community Project for the city of Uvalde. That's when they built that playground. And October 11th, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex announced that they received the 2022 Ripple of Hope Award. And you see, I could keep clicking load more, about 10 more times, and we would be here all day. But just to give you a glimpse as far as the last few months, the work that they've done. Now I'm going to scoot on over here so that we can talk about Princess Diana and some of the work that she's done. So both of these articles, or the links to these pages and articles, are in the sources section of the description box below. But this is from time.com, and they kind of do a brief overview of Princess Diana's work and her philanthropic efforts. So, HIV and AIDS. The world was terrified by the AIDS epidemic in the mid-'80s, fed by ignorance and misinformation. People did not touch sufferers due to the mistaken belief that HIV could be transmitted through contact. In 1987, Diana opened Britain's first AIDS ward in London, which only cared for patients with the virus. It was there that she shook hands with an AIDS patient without gloves. She became the first high-profile celebrity to do so in order to challenge the stigma that the virus could be passed by touch. Prince Harry, her youngest son, shares his mother's activist streak, and in 2016, he underwent testing for HIV live on Facebook, which reportedly led to a surge of free at-home HIV testing kits. A week later, Harry warned against the risk of complacency in fighting the illness during an AIDS conference in South Africa on July 2016. Quote, it is time for a new generation of leaders to step forward. It is time for us to step up to make sure no young person feels any shame in asking for an HIV test, Harry told the audience at the AIDS conference. It is time for us to step up and acknowledge that stigma and discrimination still act as the greatest barrier to our ability to defeat this disease once and for all. All right. Her work in leprosy. Diana remained the patron of the Leprosy Mission England and Wales till her death in 1997. In a bid to dispel the myth that the illness could be spread by touch, she was filmed in 1989 shaking hands and touching the bandaged wounds of leprosy patients on her first visit in Indonesia, according to the Leprosy Mission. Leprosy is not highly infectious, and a multi-drug therapy cure has been available since 1981. The disease causes lumps and sores form on the skin, and if left untreated, can cause limb deformities and nerve damage. Diana continued to raise awareness about the severe skin condition by visiting leprosy hospitals and missions in Nepal, Zimbabwe, and India. Quote, it has always been my concern to touch people with leprosy, Diana once said, according to the Leprosy Mission, trying to show in a simple action that they are not reviled, nor are we repulsed, she said. Homelessness. Now, you guys know that that is one of my major platforms. I'm really big on trying to end homelessness and creating opportunities for care and more programs for free care and access for people who are suffering from homelessness. And so this one really touched me. Homelessness. Diana was an advocate of Centerpoint, a charity that helped young and homeless people off the streets by becoming its patron in 1992. Her work at the charity involved helping youth between the ages of 16 to 25 find shelter, food, and a job. She also took her sons, Prince Harry and the other one, to the charity shelters. In 2005, I'm being petty. In 2005, William became the patron of Centerpoint. He even slept rough in 2009 on the streets of London, telling the Telegraph at the time, my mother introduced the sort of area to me a long time ago. It was a real eye-opener, and I am very glad she did it. It has been something I have held close to me for a long time. Doesn't he have like 4 houses? I don't know. All right. Anyway, the charity says they helped 125,000 homeless young people since the late 60s, with 88% of all young people coming through Centerpoint moving on positively. The charity's Youth Homeless Data Bank found that in 2015, around 150,000 young people in Britain approached their local authority for housing help, but a third would be sent away without support. The research suggests that the true scale of the problem has been more than 5 times greater than the number suggested by the government statutory homeless figure. Okay. Wow. Ann Fu, I'm going to put your comment up here because I had no idea. Ann Fu says Queen Diana was the only royal who sent money to Mother Teresa, her charity. Royals don't give money, only smiles and shake hands, said Willy Wonka. That is true. I did not realize that. And I saw another. Oh, sorry. I saw Tamiko Hinman. Hey, Tamiko Hinman said, I do charity work for the homeless too. That's really good to know. I do too, and I'm glad to hear that. Thank you for sharing that. Hey, Ruth C. Ruth C said, this is well researched and well planned. Yes, Diana came to Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe is my home country. Wow. Thank you for letting me know. Wow, that's awesome. Let me go ahead and star your comment. Thank you. Hope's Garden says, I feel that had Princess Diana been alive, she and Meghan would be doing several events together, possibly with Doria. So that's the thing. I have always felt like they just had, like, I don't know if it's called like a spirit match. Like they vibe the same. Like the way they approach people, the way they speak, the way they treat people, the things that matter to them, they just seem like they're both heart-centered people and they are heart-led. Same with Doria as well. I could see this too. I don't know, call me crazy, but I've always said, like, had Diana been alive, they would get along great, just from what I see. That's why I don't understand people who say the opposite, because it's like, what leads you to that? Hatred. I could sound that hatred, just hatred and ignorance. So we're going to move to the next segment because I don't want to keep y'all here all night. So let's get going. When Prince Harry talked about their personalities. We can't get over how much Meghan reminds us of Diana's personality once she finally came into her own. During his engagement interview with Meghan Markle, Prince Harry commented that his late mother and now wife would have been thick as thieves. And like we said at the top of this roundup, Harry can't help but see the similarity between his mom's personality and his wife. Quote, so much of what Megan is and how she is so similar to my mom, he says in the first episode of Netflix's Harry and Meghan. She has the same compassion. She has the same empathy. She has the same confidence. She has this warmth about her. Indeed, there is a warmth and personability to Megan, one we've seen before in Diana. I thought this was a really sweet part. I said this before and I will say it again and shout it from a mountaintop. You cannot tell someone more about their parent than they would know themselves. So it's always interesting when people say Diana would have hated Megan. And I saw like 3 articles like that not too long ago. Diana wouldn't have liked Megan. Diana wouldn't have respected Megan. Diana and Megan are nothing alike, etc., etc. You think you know a person better than the one who was born from their womb, the person who was raised by them? I would say I take Harry's advice on who would be more like his mom or who his mom would like, et cetera, directly from him, directly from her child. I feel he would know her better than anyone. They were very close. Not only that's his mom. So before you open your trout mouth to say, oh, I don't think that they would have liked that, shut up. You're not going to know more about a person than their child. That's just simply it. Plus, most of the people who say that have never met Diana. I would even say none of the people who say that have ever met Diana. So I just say put that in your pipe and smoke it straight to hell. You are not going to know anyone more than their child. So I thought this was really sweet for a number of reasons. One, I can see their similarities too in recapping Princess Diana's biography, but also in just watching Meghan move through royal life as well as her post-royal life, looking up Princess Diana and seeing some of her old interviews, some of her old speeches, and some of the things that she was very passionate about, the way she was with people, the things that mattered to her, and the lengths that she went to make sure people got the help that they needed. She went above and beyond. They are so similar in this way, and just their general warmth and kindness towards people. I was glad that they included this in the She Knows article. Not only that, a number of times, if you look up what people think of Meghan when they meet her, people who know her, people who've worked with her, people who work at foundations that she was a patron of or that she works with or collaborates with, people that she's met on a corner, people that she's signed an autograph for, people who have interviewed her, people who've worked for her, people who know Meghan, they all say the same thing. She was very warm. She was very open, compassionate, empathetic. She was very, very open and she connected and personable and she makes great conversation. Everyone says the same thing. And so I thought that was interesting because Rebel, the Tank Wilson, decided to say that Meghan was very not warm to her after her mother was disrespectful to Meghan and was very nasty and was asking extremely invasive and concerning questions. Let me tell you, if a stranger is asking about my children, I'm calling security. If I don't call the hitman first. No, I'm just kidding. But if someone is asking me invasive questions about my kids and I just met them, I would be absolutely terrified. And, Rebel the Tank Wilson decided to call Meghan not warm after meeting her and not, wrangling her extremely excessive Tasmanian mother. She decided to put that on Meghan and say that she wasn't warm. I don't know too many mama bears who are going to be warm when someone is threatening their cubs. So, anywho, I thought that was interesting that everyone kept saying the word warm, and it was just like, interesting word choice. But what do you think about this comparison? Do you see the similarities between Diana and Meghan in their personalities? Let me. Thank you so much, Legs. Legs says, after the doc, people see the similarities between Diana and Meghan. The Royal Rota want to change the narrative because they want Diana's memory associated with the palace and Will and Kate. Diana isn't allowed to be free. That is the saddest part about this whole thing, that even in death, they are still hounding this woman and manipulating not only her image, but her life's work for their gain. That's how you know that these are not people who embody souls. These are like those NPCs, non-player characters that they talk about. Like, if there was ever an NPC, it's the people who run those tabloids. They just do not have souls. They are just out for the take. Like, money cannot be that important to you. There are so many and too many ways to make money for you to be doing craziness like this. That's why I know it's just people who are not heart-centered, people who are soulless that do these kinds of things. Because you got to at least have to have a bottom floor that you're not willing to go below, and they don't seem to have that. And we found that out when Princess Diana had her wreck. God rest her soul. J Matt said, let me put you up here, J Matt. Hey, J Matt. J Matt said, hello, Sharion. Meghan has never put a foot wrong. She has a glow around her. God is with her. She definitely glows. I have said something very similar too. And I've noticed that too. I completely agree. All right. Oh, hey, Cheryl W. Cheryl W says, Diana was warm, compassionate, and funny. Kate would board. Now, why you? Now, see, you had me all the way up until the end, and then you were like, "No more Mrs. Nice Woman." But no, I mean, the proof is in the pudding. From fashion alone, Diana would be like, "Now, girl, what you got on? What is you wearing?" All right. Oh, hey, TREH. She says, Rebel, another Meghan hater. Yes, Rebel Wilson has been a hater. And you know what's crazy is she has managed to fly below the radar with me. I have never noticed that she's just like been hating on Meghan from the beginning. But she also made jokes about police brutality. And I feel like it was right after I think it was after the death of Michael Brown here in America. She wore a police outfit and kind of made fun of the conversation at the time, which was about police brutality and excessive force and racial profiling. And when she was at the VMAs, I believe, she wore a police outfit that was like stripper police or something to kind of make light of one of the recent deaths. It could be any of them because they're always happening. But she made light of that. And I remember that was the moment I was like, you are a disgusting tank, lady. Absolutely. Hey, Sylvia Dixon. So let's see what Sylvia has to say. Sylvia Dixon says, Sharion, when Harry took Meghan on a couple of walkabouts right after the engagement, some of the older women were saying how Meghan reminded them of Diana. I knew that would frighten the royal family. That is so interesting because on Meghan's first engagement with the Queen, somebody asked the Queen to pass flowers over to Meghan. And there's a clip running around on social media, and that took me down. They were not ready for a person to advance them in any way. That's just the truth of it. Oh, thank you so much, Cheryl W. I know all my moderators, I think they're working because, you know, we share a lot of moderators, so they be working. I don't say anything. They got their other jobs. So that's okay. So thank y'all for filling in. You can't be everywhere at once. Okay, Anfu says, Queen Diana laughed a lot and Hero Harry tell a lot of funny stories of his mom. Yes, many, many similarities. Yes, they do have that same carefree and fun spirit. They were definitely people that I would like to be seated next to at a dinner party. Like, don't put me next to those other two. Please don't. Hi, Hope's Garden. Hope's Garden says, of course they are similar. They both seem to be burned to give and support others even before opening their mouths. Yep, they definitely try to give and always do for others. All right, so, let me get Black Anonymous before we go to the next segment. Black Anonymous says, I don't understand all the Meghan hate. I've never seen Meghan do anything untoward. Yeah, so I said this a couple of times on this podcast. That was my first Meghan video. Was like, did I miss something? Did she just do something crazy? Because I have never seen or heard of her doing anything. Let me know. And because the press just seems to be excessive. And a lot of people responded. That's actually how a lot of people found me then and still find me to this day from that initial video of me just genuinely being like, what did Meghan do exactly? Because it's been crazy from the beginning. They have just picked her as the target. She is a very strong woman, but my problem is that she shouldn't have to be. That should not be happening to her. She's never done anything to warrant the type of harassment she gets or any harassment at all. It's just, not only shouldn't it be happening in the first place, but the fact that it is happening is bad. And then the excessiveness of it all, it's just, they just don't have a limit. That's why I said that those people are soulless. So let's move into the next segment so that we can continue our discussion. Their hands-on parenting. Practically everything we ever saw of Princess Diana and all of the photos and clips we've seen of Meghan have shown that these two women are hands-on parents. Diana was always so openly affectionate with her boys, Princes William and Harry, and always made them her first priority. With Meghan, it's no different. From her trip to South Africa with little Archie to the clips and photos we've seen of her with both her son and daughter Lilibet, it's clear that Meghan is a very hands-on mom, something reiterated in Harry and Meghan. Plus, Meghan isn't afraid to be protective of her kids like Princess Diana. Keeping Archie and Lilibet's lives as private as possible is of the utmost importance to her, reminding us just how much Diana fought for her own sons to have as normal a life as possible. And since we are talking about children, yes, they have very similar parenting styles, but also the way they make other children feel when they meet kids on their level. Some of the most memorable images of Princess Diana feature the late royal with children. Diana always met kids on their level and never shied away from showing them affection. It's a quality Meghan possesses too, and one we love to see time and again. So I really like that segment because the way they both are with children, that has been one of the most standout similarities since I was introduced to Megan. Children take to her, and one of the things that it may be superstitious or whatever, but I've always felt like children and animals will tell you a lot about a person, and people, kids know. If you have an evil spirit or you don't have a good spirit, kids can feel that and they will avoid you. I think it's great that not only is Megan very warm and kids respond to her well, but the same is true for Diana. Kids just flock to her. She's very good with kids. There are so many countless photos of each of them just being really warm and sweet, but also their parenting styles. They are both very hands-on. Both of them have gotten a lot of flack for being so hands-on. And Diana, her openly public displays of affection, especially in the 80s, especially in contrast to Queen Elizabeth at the time, and shaking her son's hand, her 3-year-old son's hand after a long trip. People have always said, like, some people love Diana's nature in that way, but then some people were like, she's breaking royal protocol because she literally ran to William and Harry and picked them up and spun them around when she came home from a trip. She was very active and hands-on as a parent. She made that very clear. She talked openly about nicknaming Harry Good King Harry. She knew a lot about her children. A lot of the stuff that people don't know about their kids tells me about how much and how involved they are. Because a lot of people will tout, being, I'm a hands-on parent, I'm a very involved parent, but they don't even know their kids' sizes. Like, and the kids aren't old enough to shop for themselves. So it's always interesting. And it's almost always overwhelmingly a certain type of parent. It's usually like the father out of the home. Not always, but a lot of times when you hear people talking about, I'm a dad, I'm a single dad, but they don't even know what shoe size their kids wear. They got to ask the mama. It's like, are you really spending the time you claim? So the royal family doesn't necessarily promote really hands-on parents. They have nannies and helpers and au pairs and things like that. But at the end of the day, the two people that made the child should be the ones the most concerned with the child's well-being, and that's not always the case in the royal family. So seeing a mother like Meghan, seeing a mother like Diana always puts people off, because I think it highlights what they don't do. If people would be more concerned with what's going on in their own house instead of concerned about other people making them look one way or the other, the world will be a better place. If someone can shame you just by doing a good job in a certain area, then that means you need to step your game up. Because honestly, people don't do things with the intent to make you look bad. So if you feel that way, that's coming from inside, and that's something you need to address. You can't ask someone else to hold back just because you don't plan to meet the standard they set for themselves. The problem is you're jealous, not that they're doing anything. They're not showboating. They're not showing off. They're doing what they want to do with the time they have and with the resources they have. You need to do the same, or take the L. I mean, at the end of the day, take the L. But a lot of people did not like that. A lot of people were really upset that Princess Diana really wanted to bring William when he was an infant on her tours with Charles. There was a lot of pushback from that. She had to fight for that. And to me, that's insane. What new mom would want to be separated from her kid? But that was the case back then. She actually had to advocate repeatedly to get William to come on her trip because the royal family did not like that. So it's interesting what was protocol, because it's made up as they go. But and the things that people are shamed for then are the things that they like to claim are happening with certain parents, while making fun of or putting down other parents who are actually showing up and showing interest in their children's well-being. So it's one thing to say, no offense to anyone, this isn't about anyone in particular. It's one thing to say, oh, I'm a hands-on parent and I specialize in early childhood development, and then your kid is slapping you around and calling you crazy all over the internet and all over the live events and everything else, but you specialize in early childhood development. There was no other age. There was no worse age for your child to be tagging that ass in front of everybody. It's not funny. That's messed up. I hate that happened to that woman. But there is no worse age for that to be happening than the one that applies directly to your platform. So I always thought that was crazy. What's done in the dark will come to the light. You out here trying to BS everybody and make everybody think that's what your work is in. And your kid was like, let me show y'all how much you really know. So anyway, I said all that to say Megan and Harry are really hands-on parents. And despite what a lot of people have said about them, it's obviously in the best interest of the kids, and the kids are really thriving. You can see how smart they are, how well-spoken they are, how active and curious they are. Every time we get a glance of them, they're doing something that enriches their mind, that piques their curiosity, that helps them build their skills in many different areas. They're very hands-on parents. And I'm not going to parent shame. There are different types of parents with different types of parenting styles, but this particular parenting style is definitely apparent between Diana and Megan. So I love that they had that in common. All right, so let's move to the next segment. Their relationship with the press. One of the more heartbreaking similarities between Diana and Megan is their relationship with the press, especially tabloid media. The late Princess of Wales was constantly hounded by paparazzi with varying degrees of headlines written about her. What once was an adoring press often turned harmful, not dissimilar to Meghan's experience. As chronicled in Harry and Meghan, the global reaction to Meghan was so warm, but as Meghan's time as a prominent member of the royal family continued, the headlines became intrusive and painful. Both women simply wanted to retreat from the flashing cameras and constant attention, trying to regain any semblance of control over their lives. On the flip side of that, their successful tours of Australia. Following their weddings, Princess Diana and Meghan Markle embarked on tours of Australia, something of a tradition for newlyweds in the royal family. All eyes were on the women and their husbands, and both tours were practically perfect. The tours were a huge success and announced Diana and Meghan as two influential royal family members. So, with that, we all know that their journeys with the press have been very similar, with the exception of Meghan having the added layer of the racism that was also part of the press's obsession, but also attacks towards her. But they both had the same type of experience with the press, and they also had the same type of response. It's also worth noting the royal family also had very similar responses to both of them, which was essentially to deny them actual help and to advocate on their behalf, and also to contribute to the destigmatization of mental health and mental illness. Instead, they decided to essentially tell them, get over it. Get over it. As we continue to recap Diana, her true story in her own words, every other week on this channel, every other Friday on this channel, one of the things that I've noticed is how every time Diana felt like she didn't have a voice and she wanted to scream, the royal family was basically like, that's just life. You just live with it. So it begs the question, do they just, since they are born in it, do they just learn to live with that type of frustration and angst? And if so, has no one ever just simply, they got enough time on their hands for someone to just brainstorm, are there other ways we can handle this? Oh, I know, therapists. You think they should advocate for therapy. The craziest part, now here's the thing. Consistently, we've seen Will and Kate promote, or the image around them promote mental health and mental wellness, right? But we all know that they both contributed to the mental degradation and the strife that was all around Harry and Meghan, making it significantly worse, right? So that not only deplatforms them in that area, one. Two, when Harry talked about going to therapy and he invited William didn't go. That alone should deplatform him in that area as well. Three, after Harry released Spare and also went on his very short but very good press run, Will and Kate's camp made the comments that they don't see the value in chatting with a therapist. They essentially like chalked it up to hocus pocus. How do they still have a mental health platform if they're going to sit there and stigmatize everything about it? They're literally their biggest naysayer in that area. So it's like you can tell who does work and who doesn't, but also the least they could have done is just shut up. when we found out what went on behind the scenes, that should have deplatformed them. But nothing was worse and more egregious than the fact that they came out and tried to shame Harry for talking to a therapist. Like, you're so busy trying to take down someone else that you're literally deplatforming yourself and ruining your own legitimacy in this area. I always thought that was so interesting. So the press is responding to what, what gets them views, clicks, what have you. And they definitely have been doing that for a long time. And so the methods may have changed. Back in the day, it wasn't clicks and it wasn't social media and all that stuff. But here's the thing. They were tailing Diana physically. She said in Diana, Her True Story, she had up to 40 paparazzi that were just on her all the time. And not only does Meghan also have paparazzi, but she's not safe online. She's not safe online. So it's really sad that they both had their own forms of that type of harassment, but they definitely face press harassment from the beginning to the end. When they called out the institution. While there was a time Meghan and Diana felt they didn't have a voice in the firm, they most certainly regained it once they separated themselves from the royal family. In her controversial interview with Martin Bashir, Diana was hardly hesitant to share her thoughts on the monarchy, how they had failed her, didn't prepare her for the role, and how they didn't protect or support her when she needed it most. Meghan, and even more so her husband, Prince Harry, has also spoken about how the conflicts between the family members and the institution often made for unhealthy situations. Between her struggles with her mental health and the family's supposed lack of protection from an overeager British press, Meghan, like Diana, saw for herself how difficult it is for an outsider in the royal family. So they were both very outspoken when it came to calling out the institution. And the part about that always bugs me when we talk about it is the fact that Meghan wasn't even trying to go there with those people. She just told the truth. She wasn't in any kind of deluded state of mind. She wasn't under extreme duress. Like, she was so clear. Even when we listened on Monday to that podcast talking about how clear Meghan communicates, she's always very clear, very concise. She's a very well-spoken person, and she is able to completely penetrate the point of her argument without lag. That was the same thing with her interview. She just seemed like, I didn't want it to have to get to this point. I've tried to handle this behind the scenes. Like, she seemed fed up in that interview. That always made me really sad. Very similar to Diana when she had to call out the institution. This was after years of different forms of abuse and harassment, allegedly. So the entire thing, having that in common is one thing. I hate that they have that in common, and I'm glad that the article stated that it's very sad that they have this in common, but it is a commonality between the two of them. But at the end of the day, it really sucks because there's so much time between them in being in the royal family that why isn't the royal family doing anything to remedy this? Like, instead of arguing about whether or not Diana was right or wrong, why not listen to what her experience was like and make sure that when people marry into your royal family, they don't have this experience. You have all the time, money, and resources to make sure each person is able to live a viable life while in that institution and give to the greater good of the UK and the Commonwealth. Like, why not contribute to that? The happier and the healthier these people are, the better they'll be able to serve their country. So at what point do you put two and two together and say, maybe these archaic statue role-playing roles and protocols aren't actually serving the people? And at what point do we recognize, which I've said on this channel all the time, the monarchy as it stands right now doesn't reflect the people that it's supposed to serve? So at what point do they address that major issue? That is always my question. And if multiple people are leaving your family and leaving your institution and saying the same thing, at what point do you penetrate the problem? At what point do you stop calling everybody who says you are harming me crazy and you say, no, I might not be crazy, but the issues that I'm raising, this is crazy. I shouldn't have to deal with this. If I say I'm feeling attacked, I should be able to get security. First of all, I shouldn't have to advocate for security if I'm part of your institution that you've acknowledged needs security. At this point, it's intentional. And that's my problem. If you are supposed to serve the people, how do you serve the people by bringing this much negativity towards your country and your commonwealth? People, it's the same thing we as Americans were very similar that we as Americans were experiencing a couple years ago when we had a certain president, and people were making fun of us. Remember the G6 summit? So people were making fun of us, like, I cannot believe they elected that fool. So I know how that feels to have people representing you that do not represent you. Like, aren't y'all fed up about it? Because you definitely deserve someone great. You definitely deserve people who are going to represent you and represent you well, especially the Commonwealth. If you're going to colonize me, at least treat me good. Shit. So I'm just saying. But anyway, oh, hey, Beautiful Day. Let's see what Beautiful Day said. Beautiful Day said, the UK media own the royals. Yep. If the royals push back too much, the UK media have the power to destroy them, the power the royals gave them. A toxic cycle to the end of time. That's 100% correct. And I love that you put it in those terms. I'm going to star your tweets or your comments so everybody can see it. Okay, absolutely. I completely agree. Ooh. Hi, Del Bev. Del Bev says sharing the royal family is the cause of the problem. Yeah, they are. Like, I guess, what is the aversion to change and evolving for the better? What is the aversion to that? Sure, I have to lose weight. So instead of waking up and plopping on the couch and playing video games and putting a bag of chips on my chest and just dumping them in my mouth, sure, that would be fun. But is that going to serve my goal? No, I got to get up and go to the gym and then come home and eat boiled eggs. So you got to act in the best interest of the goal at hand. So if the goal is to serve the people in the best way possible, why don't you represent and serve the people in the best way possible? And instead of saying, I know best and they don't, why not hear them and listen to them? If y'all want to know more about that, go to Republic. They have great points on their website. I always see their little yellow signs too at Charles's engagements. I'm like, them people do not play. They have a mission and they are seeing to it that their voices are heard. Good for them. Fantastic for them. Okay. Hey, Clara Cador. Is it Cador or Cadore? I'm going to say Clara Cador until you correct me. Clara Cador said, we all had an opinion about Diana. She will be queen. Just play along, not knowing how awful it was behind the scenes. I can only imagine. And I can imagine everyone who felt that way hoped for the best for her and expected the best for her. So when you had that anticipation for her, it was in good faith. And it sucks that wasn't the case. You should have been able to have that expectation of her because it's certainly what you were promised. You definitely were owed that. Hey, Little Mac. Little Mac said, I think UK media is playing the long game, thinking they will be the ones writing history as if Spare and Netflix don't exist. See, that's the thing. When you get your story out and you operate with transparency, the truth lives longer than a lie. Look at how many times they've had to pivot to change their narrative in order to demonize Harry and Meghan. See, the truth doesn't pivot. It stands. And everything else operates around it. And that's exactly why Harry hasn't had to respond to anything. The truth is already there. Just refer to the book. Which side am I on? Refer to the book. There we go. All right. So we're going to go to the next segment so that I'm not keeping y'all here all day. I promise. When they were vulnerable about their mental health. Even though we'd like to think conversations about mental health are more open than ever before, the stigma still exists and persists. Both Princess Diana and Meghan Markle opened up about their struggles with their mental health. They sought support from Buckingham Palace during their respective struggles and each dealt with suicidal ideation. Quote, all of this will stop if I'm not here, Meghan said in Harry and Meghan, recalling just how dark her thoughts became while she was a senior working royal. Quote, and that was the scariest thing about it because it was such clear thinking. During Diana's controversial interview with Martin Bashir, the late Princess of Wales disclosed her suicidal attempts. If you or someone you know are experiencing suicidal thoughts or thoughts of self-harm, please contact the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-TALK, 8255. Text STRENGTH to the crisis text line at 741-741. Again, you can call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-8255, or you can text the word STRENGTH to the crisis text line at 741-741. You can also go to suicidepreventionlifeline.org. Okay, um, so yeah, the mental health aspect, we kind of already touched on it. I jumped ahead, but the whole thing about that is you don't even have to have like a whole background in mental health and behavioral health. Now y'all know I was an administrator and I was an operations manager for a few behavioral health practices and mental health practices. So mental health is, I see that as a tool. Mental health management, I see that as a tool. Behavioral health management, I see that as a tool. Psychotherapy, I see these things as natural upkeep. If you're going to get a checkup, if you're going to go to the dentist, those are natural upkeep. So I consider the same for mental health, awareness, and mental wellness. It is a practice. You have to keep yourself sharp. Maintaining a healthy mental space is a practice. You don't just wake up and feel perfect all the time. And not that going to a therapist or practicing healthy mental habits will make you perfect, but if you don't manage it and make that a practice and gather tools that apply to you and gather ways to grow in your emotional maturity, grow in your coping skills, and have these things in your pocket, those are things that are needed. But if they're stigmatized, people will not seek them out. And if you don't seek it out, it might not find you. Thankfully, my parents have always been open about having those kinds of open conversations. And my mom did not hesitate to put me in therapy. I started therapy when I was 7. And unfortunately, it was because my uncle was M-worded in a very awful way. He suffered a tragedy that ended his life. Yeah. And so it was so catastrophic for the whole family, but I was very close to him and I was only 7. So my mom made sure that I was in therapy weekly. And I just always maintained weekly therapy. That's so important. Hey. Oh, welcome, Lydia Washington. Thank you for joining. And hey, Sakia. So y'all, this is my sister, Sakia, with the very pretty profile picture right there. She's so cute. Sakia said, thank you for addressing the critical issue, Sharion. It is so, you call me Sharion. It's so official. It is so spot on and necessary in this climate and deserves full attention from entities, corporations, etc. 100%, everyone should get behind mental health awareness and mental health management. It is a practice. It can be something as helpful or as impactful as going to a therapist once or twice a week, going to group therapy and participating in different types of treatments such as EMDR or things like that. Or it could be something that's more casual, once every 2 weeks, which is just a check-in. You can even do it from a Zoom meeting or a phone call. I did phone therapy for a while when we are in Florida and we're having hurricanes and things like that, and we have to relocate. Sometimes we'll have to fly up to Atlanta. I will do therapy by the phone. My therapist has literally called me and said, are you still open to do your session today? I know that you guys are having bad weather, because my therapist is up north. I'm down south. And I chose a therapist who was not in the same general area as me in Florida, because I wanted to make sure we never had the same weather. So she called and did my therapy over the phone. I had to go in to do EMDR in office, but other than that, I would talk on the phone. And sometimes the conversation, I'll say this, sometimes with therapy, the day that I'm like, I might cancel because I really don't have nothing to talk about, I'll go in and that'll be the day that I have experienced some breakthroughs, or just kind of covered some really good ground, or learned some really great coping techniques. So stuff like that. So all I'm saying is mental health management, mental health wellness, those are all things that should be considered healthcare overall. No one is going to argue with you if you say, I got to get my teeth cleaned. No one's going to say bat an eye. So why bat an eye when someone says, I have to go in for a session of EMDR? Why is that a problem? Or I have to go and talk to my therapist. Oh, I have a group therapy appointment. Or, hey, I got to drop my kid off at therapy. I actually recommend when families are breaking up, when parents are divorcing, when families are breaking up for any reason, All parties involved should be in therapy, especially the children. There are so many tools that you can gain from going to group therapy as a family, but also individual therapy to accompany the group therapy that I always mention, because it's helpful. It's helpful for the parents to learn to communicate throughout the split. And it's also helpful for the parents to learn tools and how to communicate to children on their level so that they can understand to the best extent how their life is going to change and what this is all about, and continue to reinforce and validate their security in that change. Sometimes parents are like, oh, they're not going to notice that he pick them up every other weekend. Yes, they will. Kids will notice. Kids will notice. And if you don't give them the answers and they don't seek the answers, they'll feel like, oh my God, this must be my fault. You'd be surprised. So I'm just saying, I wanted to bring that up because with the royal family, there seems to be this habit of them just kind of dismissing mental health issues. But then on the flip side, promoting Will and Kate as these mental health awareness advocates and patrons, and they're just so smart when it comes to mental health, and they are advocating for mental health. Right, but it's really hard to say that when your actual sister-in-law asked to go to a facility and you guys denied her, or you made fun of your brother for talking to a chat therapist, a CHOP therapist. It's okay to seek help. It is okay to not be okay. It is okay to be perfectly fine and still talk to somebody. A lot of times I found that I am really good at deluding the hell out of myself. I will be going through something serious and I will stuff that in the back of that brain and be like, girl, yeah, but I know you're going through something, but we finna focus on something else. And I'll forget it's there. And then it'll show up. It'll show up when I spill a glass of milk and I go to cussing and God damn it. And now I'm like, wait, that was a real big reaction. What else is going on with your friend? And then I got to call my therapist. Now, let me, girl, this milk is on the floor and I'm pissed. And she's like, let's break that down. Okay, so you spilled the milk. And so she will get to the root with me. But you'd be surprised how many people are operating in this world okay, but not okay. And I would venture to say none of us are okay by okay standard. All of us have been taught to feign okay. But I don't think it's anything wrong with checking in. You see, I would say that my teeth are white by my standard. But if I open my mouth and put in a microscope, y'all would be like, Sharion, why do you have a cavity at your big age? It's because I like Mr. Goodbars. Okay, I'll answer it. But it looks okay, but it's not okay. I had to get that filled on up. So mental health is an asset and a tool. Mental health awareness and mental health management are assets and tools. If you don't know how to seek out a therapist, I try to share this as often as possible because I didn't know until I was an administrator. I did not know. But if you don't even know where to start, go to psychologytoday.com, filter out what you want in a therapist. You can really choose pretty much anything. Select your insurance. Call them. And when you select all this, they'll filter out and to the therapists that only meet your criteria. So if you say, I want a woman of so I only like to talk to people of a certain age. I prefer my psychotherapist to be at least 50. That's just what makes me most comfortable, because I feel like in addition to the intellect and the learned information, they have life experience. And that makes me feel very secure. And I found great benefit. When I have tried to work with younger therapists, I found that the needs that I brought to the table were not being met by younger therapists. So I need someone with a lot of experience and a very open mind. And it has always helped me. But go to psychologytoday.com, filter what type of experience you're looking for, what type of therapist, who you would be comfortable talking to. If you are in the LGBTQIA community and you have needs and thoughts and feelings specific to that, which I would imagine you would, you can select that so that you are talking to someone who is offering services particular to your needs. I used to work at a Christian counseling center who also served the LGBTQIA community. And they would call and be like, y'all, do y'all see people regarding some of my feelings regarding some of the stuff that's happening with trans people? And I'm like, yeah, we see people who serve the LGBTQIA community explicitly. Would you like to book with them? And they'd always be surprised. You just don't know until you reach out. And so filter on Psychology Today, find out of that list. You can call them. You can even send in an inquiry right there on Psychology Today. Just send an email. This is what I'm looking for. This is what I'm going through. Do you have an opening? and they'll call you and set it up. You'll have somebody to talk to the next day. Another great resource is ZocDoc. If you don't use ZocDoc, I recommend it because you can review your provider no matter what type of healthcare issue you have, whether it's dentistry, OBGYN, primary care physician, a therapist, whoever. You can find anything to meet your bodily needs in any way as far as care and service through ZocDoc. They will show you their rating, what other people have said about them, all the different ways to contact them, and ZocDoc will facilitate the communication as well, just like Psychology Today. So I like to share that information because a lot of people don't know. I always say the person who probably needs to talk to a therapist the most is the person who says, I don't need to talk to a therapist. That's the person. So I hope you guys take me up on that, because everybody needs to talk to a therapist at least once a month. That is my feeling. Even if it's just to say, girl, my kids are working my nerves. They come in every day and I don't mop and they put their dirty shoes on the floor and I'm about to cut their heads off. Like, you know how people just say stuff. Sometimes you do need to talk to someone, because if you call your friends, they might be like, girl, I'm so sick of hearing you complain about your kids. Or if you call your sister, she might be like, you know what? I actually have a roast in the oven and I got to do these dishes. Girl, can I call you back? But a therapist is going to talk to you and hear you and give you tools to cope in the moment when that issue arises, or give you tools to be able to face those issues. You just never know. So trust the professionals. I'm not going to pull my own teeth. I'm not going to do my own surgery. I can't manage my own mental health without a professional. And I found that my life is greater when they've been able to help me. So I'm really proud of Harry and Megan for being advocates for mental health management, mental health awareness, and practicing positive and healthy, safe mental health awareness and management tactics. There's so many things that can help. A lot of times we don't even know what type of issue we have. I'll tell you one story and then we got to move to the next thing. But I remember talking to someone who was telling me, I didn't even realize I needed therapy. I was setting up therapy for my kid and I was observing. I was allowed to observe. And some of the stuff she was saying, I was like, man, I could use someone to talk to. I realized that some of that was hitting home. And so she scheduled her own individual session. And as she was talking, she realized that some of the things that she was experiencing weren't just her feelings based. Actually, it turns out over time, she actually was diagnosed with a mental illness, and all the things that people have been telling her were just her, or, you know, she just a little off. That's just how she is. All the little quirks that she had, and that was the term she used. I hope that's still an okay term. Let me know. I don't want to offend anybody, but sometimes she would have some quirks that she just thought were just random mannerisms, and they were actually signs of mental illness. And she was able to directly approach and directly address that mental illness. She did get on medication, and she also learned coping skills. And her life, she has described her life as being great. So, and being much better, especially having a name, having a way to name it. She said she felt less ostracized in her family now that she was able to name it. So I just thought that was an interesting story. And that one I always carry with me, because this woman was in her 40s and had never been diagnosed with a mental illness, yet she had all the signs, but she never inquired about it. So I hope if you have any questions about how to find a therapist, et cetera, let me know and I will help you in that way. But use the tips I've given you in this video. And now let's get to the last segment. It doesn't take much imagination to see this similarity. Meghan Markle and Princess Diana are both total fashion icons. To this day, Princess Diana's style has stood the test of time, even influencing both her daughters-in-law. While Meghan has a style all her own, it's always so classic and elegant with a contemporary spin. We've seen Meghan pay homage to Princess Diana with her sartorial statements before, and there's no denying both these women have set trends and become fashion inspirations. Now, to this, I love that they acknowledge that Meghan has her own style, and she had that long before she entered the royal family. She has this casual, cool nature about the way she wears clothes, the way she puts together outfits, but also how they just set upon her body and how she carries herself. Her style is not just the actual clothes she wears, it's how she carries herself. It's her gait, it's her stature, it's the way she wears her hair and makeup, it's the jewelry pieces she picks. They all represent who she is innately, but so did Princess Diana. And it's interesting how they're now natural style is so similar. And it's evident long before Meghan entered the royal family. There's a few photos of like Diana wearing button downs that are very similar to the boyfriend shirt that Meghan wore on her first outing with Harry at the Invictus Games. It's just so interesting how there's so many photos of how even Princess Diana had this casual, cool nature when she was essentially, quote, off the clock or at engagements. When she wasn't at formal events, she had jeans and flats, and she wore these really cute casual clothes. Not to mention, Princess Diana's gem style is all its own. We never talk about it, but Princess Diana represented this certain look when it went to going to and from the gym that is still relevant today. Women are still mimicking this look, and it is iconic. The heavy sweatshirt, the small bike shorts, the chunky sneakers, and the chunky socks. It's just a look now, and I see it all the time when I'm at the gym. It's just how each individual woman has a style that's true to their own, and they are both fashion icons, but then they also have a very, very prevalent thread of similarity between what pieces they both pick. I also love when Meghan takes the time to properly pay homage to Princess Diana by wearing one of the pieces from her jewelry collection, but she doesn't copy paste her outfits. There is a way to pay homage to someone that you respect and that you adore or are inspired by without copying. And that's why I always say that, like, if you're going to be inspired by someone, you can obviously let them know it and show it, but there's a way to do it without copying them exactly. I have a whole video regarding, you don't copy me, you're not doing it right, because that's the thing. When the other person copies Princess Diana, she copies and pastes the outfit. And that's why the clothes wear her and she doesn't wear the clothes, because one, if she was going to pull from anyone, I think it will be obvious that the person who makes most sense for the way she carries herself will be Princess Anne, not Princess Diana. I think they would have a more similar style to Kate and Princess Anne. And if she's going to pay homage to any woman in the royal family, will be Queen Elizabeth or Princess Anne, not Princess Diana. Princess Diana is very modern for the time types of looks, her glam types of looks, and her formal looks, her casual, cool nature. That is Meghan. Over and over again, they have the more similar style. And when Meghan pays homage to her, she doesn't copy her, she honors her. And that's how you know it's done out of respect and reverence, and not out of, ooh, I just want to be on the headlines. Because Meghan's going to be in the headlines anyway. Princess Diana would have been in the headlines anyway. And I think their experiences in royal life were the most similar, which it's just interesting how many things they have in common, but fashion is definitely one of those things. So, since we're talking about fashion, I wanted y'all to see the most fashionable man in the world. I've never met a man that wears a fur coat to the bathroom and don't be worried about getting it dirty. A white fur coat. Say hi to everybody, Romeo. Look at him hitting me all in the mouth. Not me talking about Kate and her kids and my son knocking me around. So here you go, baby. But anyway, I'm talking about other people parenting. My son sleep on the floor in a little bed on the floor. So anyway, yes, they definitely are both fashion icons in their own right. They both have a separate, very iconic style, separate of one another, but they do have similar style. That is a style that they both embody, and Meghan has had before entering the royal family. Thank y'all so much. Y'all so sweet. Thank y'all for saying my son is cute. I know y'all see the similarities. We look just alike. So anyway, but yeah, if I had to compare Kate to anyone, it would definitely be Queen Elizabeth or Princess Anne. It would not be Princess Diana. Princess Diana was classic and stylish. I'll just say it like that. And that is a very similar style to Meghan. And Meghan had that casual, cool thing going, and she still does. And she does. It's real effortless. It's not like a try hard where it's like I'm posing, but I got to look casual. Like, no, she just is, and she dictates her style, and it looks right on her. She doesn't have to copy anyone, that's for sure. And I think the first sign of someone not knowing what to do with their own style is whether or not they copy everybody around them. So with this list overall, I was really glad to talk about this, because I was seeing over the weekend a couple of headlines that were And honestly, when people say that Diana wouldn't have liked Megan, what do y'all look to gain out of that? There is no way that statement can ever be proven. You're just being mean for mean's sake, but then you're also being stupid because it makes no sense. It doesn't make any sense, and it also shows their lack of knowledge for the history of the royal family and Diana's experience in the royal family. They're obviously missing a few screws when they say things like that. Kate continues to copy Meghan. Did y'all not just see like the suit outfit she just wore as well? That was identical to an outfit that Meghan wore not too long ago. So she's never gonna stop. At this point, I just let her cook. If that brings you happiness to look crazy, then you go right on ahead. You go right on ahead. She can do what she want to do. So anyway, I really appreciate y'all watching and tuning in tonight. I really appreciate that. It means so much to me. If you are interested in becoming a member, those 2 member videos that I promised y'all will be out tomorrow. But if you're interested in becoming a member, hit that join button below or use the link in the description box below. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit that like button. I appreciate y'all for reminding us, because even I do that sometimes. I think YouTube should make it a little bit easier to hit the like button when you're already watching something versus having to leave the live stream and do all that some people have to do. So when I send in my little creator surveys, I always say, like, make it easier to access the like button during the live watch so that people don't have to like maneuver. I'm always trying to find different ways, because I'm a viewer too. I watch a bunch of other channels. I watch Prim's Hood Cinema. I watch Jamie French, Kenny JD. So I'm a fan of a bunch of channels, and sometimes when I'm just streaming their whole playlist, it's hard for me to like click out and go like it. I always do, but it is an extra few steps that some people will just be like, oh, I don't have to do that. So they should make it easier. So anyway, thank y'all so much for watching. It has been so much fun to talk mess on a Wednesday night. If you have not already, don't forget to like this video and subscribe, and I will see y'all next time.